Folks, welcome into That Betting Show for January 25th, 2019. Usually it's a football Friday here. If you want to consider the Pro Bowl Sunday a football game, we'll go ahead and call it a football Friday here at sportsbookreview.com. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour. Give me a follow on Twitter at RightSideVP. A lot going on here, Teddy, like a rite of passage. A weekend before the Super Bowl. The props are released, both offshore and also in Las Vegas. A lot to digest and go over. Teddy, the Westgate. 440 prop bets to go over for Super Bowl 53. How about it?
Look, there aren't many legitimate wise guy parties in the world. Last night at the Westgate, and I encourage you, if you're ever in Vegas the week before the Super Bowl, go down to the Westgate Superbook the Thursday night prior to, a week ahead of the game. It's something else because literally it's like the sharpest bettors and their runners in full force down at the Westgate last night. More than $400,000 they took in $1,000 and $2,000 limits on those wagers. Jay Cornegay, quote, "I didn't expect this." It's time to start expecting this. Handles are going to continue to increase. And of course, so many props to talk about. I don't even know where to start when there's 440 props and we got to break them all down. Where do you want to start, Donnie? There's so many to discuss.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like you spend a whole show in there trying to break down all and try to get those added advantages. The easy ones, as we know, always, the heads and tails always pop up right there. Also, I always like to look into the conspiracy side of things, Teddy, where it's like you hook in the referees and, who's going to score first, who's going to get the penalties or more penalty yardage. Obviously, we know that the Patriots are on a high penalized team. But one thing I do like to look into where it's not so much of a formula or exactly what's going to take place. We know, Teddy, that the New England Patriots struggle, it seems, in the first half of Super Bowl football games. And we also know that they like to kick off and defer to the second half. So there are some value in some of these prop bets, but also some quirky ones as well, which we like, where it takes in some NHL players along with the NFL game, some NBA players. Talk about some of those types, Teddy.
Sure, and those are the fun ones. They really are, and they're interesting to handicap, and they give you something to sink your teeth into significantly. You have James Harden points. The Rockets play the Jazz on the Saturday before Super Bowl Sunday. Harden points versus the longest touchdown of the Super Bowl, -9.5. Kevin Durant points. The Warriors are playing the Lakers the day before the Super Bowl, -2.5 versus Jared Goff completions. Zion Williamson points and rebounds on February 2nd. Duke plays the day before versus Patriots and Rams of first-round points. Phil Mickelson fourth-round bogeys or worse on Super Bowl Sunday versus Josh Reynolds receptions -1.5. Interesting ones to consider, no question, but when it actually comes down to putting a chunk of money on them, well, these are most assuredly the type of bets you want to do your research and do your homework on. We'll be doing that throughout the course of the next week. Be sure to tune into That Betting Show every single day. We will have one show next week. We really sit down and break down props for an extended stretch. But bottom line is we're going to touch on it every single day. So you better be here watching That Betting Show right here on sportsbookreview.com.
Going to be great there. And there's going to be a lot of people next week whining that they couldn't get the right number. Why couldn't I get New England at, a pick 'em or a +1 when I should have, when the line's now up to 3? Another team whining out there still, Teddy, which it seems like we might be able to have one of these each and every day with a different player or a different owner in the organization for the New Orleans Saints. Ben Watson comes out, the all high and mighty. He's one of the team leaders. He needs Roger Goodell to come out and lead by example. You know how you should lead by example? Don't let one play in a game in the fourth quarter come back to bite you when you had a 13-0 lead in your home stadium, Ben Watson. Again, Teddy, New Orleans, they just can't get over this one.
No, and I don't blame them for not being able to get over it. It's a really brutal beat. And when you see an obvious pass interference, an obvious helmet to helmet, and it doesn't get called, I can understand the whining and complaining and all of that. For a day, maybe for 2. When you start talking about, it's a week later, we're still going to be bitching and moaning. Hey, life sucks. Life's not fair. Deal with it. I don't know what else to tell you. Roger Goodell is not going to go back and change the outcome of that game. And of course, Goodell didn't have any public comments scheduled. His next public comments will be when he meets with the media on Wednesday at his Super Bowl news conference I'm sure Roger Goodell will talk about it then as best he can. But what can he say? The ref screwed up. The wrong team's in the Super Bowl. Don't expect that to come out of Roger Goodell's mouth.
Yeah, even if it did come out of his mouth. What happens if he has the press conference next week? He's like, you know what? We all reviewed the tape. We were completely wrong. It should have been a penalty. That ain't changing the outcome. Tickets aren't getting reversed out there. The Saints fans aren't buying tickets to the Super Bowl. So you're going to have to live with it one way or another. It's a long offseason. We understand that. But hey, better luck next year in this one. Teddy, it seems like every day we go over a lot of bad beats on the show. They're fun to talk about as long as, once again, it doesn't involve a team or a ticket that you bet. Tough break on Murray State. I know a lot of people are looking forward just to watch this game with Ja Morant taking the court. Goes down in the first couple minutes, still ends up, Teddy, scoring 20 points, gutting it out, but it was clear he wasn't 100% right from the get-go of that injury there. Belmont pulls out the victory. Also, I was watching a little bit of late-night action, and I was sitting down, winding down my evening. Oregon up 5 points with a couple minutes to play, and the almighty prayer answered for Washington, pulling up for 3 on a running jumper with 1 second to go. 3 foul shots later. Game is over. Ends up being a 61-56 final. There were a couple other. You know what was interesting, Teddy? As we were probably filming yesterday, an afternoon or early morning game that tipped off with Oakland. Talk about that one, which took a bad beat. It didn't have anything to do with the final score in the game, but tickets change hands for sure there.
Oh, it had something to do with the final score. It didn't have anything to do with who won. The question was,
that's what I mean,
is IUPUI going to win by 5 or are they going to win by 2? The meaningless, and that was legitimately half court. We had guys tweeting us during the show when we were recording yesterday, talking about, are you guys going to talk about this? Well, we couldn't talk about it because it was going on while we were speaking. But again, I don't mean to laugh. All right. It's brutal when one of these sticks you in the gut. And that was one. And there was another one last night with Louisiana Tech against Marshall. You know, Marshall's game's tied at the end of regulation. What happens? Bulldogs win by 9 in the extra session. Anything but overtime if you have the dog. No, not overtime. And now you got to sweat the whole thing again. They're tough. If you're going to bet on sports on a day in, day out basis, you have to be able to take that punch. You can have your moment, but you have to be able to wipe it clean before the next day. At least 4 of them last night in college hoops. And those are just the ones we noticed. I'm sure there were more when it came to first halves or second halves or any of the additional wagers you can make in college hoops. But my condolences. And in Murray State, real quick, with Ja Morant. Remember we were talking about yesterday? I'm like, I don't know why this money's coming on the dog. Well, somebody knew something with Morant not being 100%. And that somebody who knew something cashed a whole lot of money on Belmont last night.
I'll tell you, I had one late down in the Big South, and some of these games that look like, Teddy, they're in middle school gyms. High Point, I was sitting on a +3 ticket late in the ball game. It's a 3-point game with 5 seconds to go. Longwood does the right thing and fouls in the backcourt to force free throws. What do I get out of this one, Teddy? With 4.7 seconds to go, a swish on the first, so we're inside the number at +2. Then we have to miss the free throw, which gets thrown off the side of the backboard and causes a, not a technical foul, but a violation. Goes the other team. 2 free throws the other way. 55-51. My +3 goes up in flames. We'll talk about a lot as these go towards the end of the year. We're going to talk a little bit of overnight line movers here. If you haven't done so yet, please check out SBRodds.com for all the latest line movements. Also, give us a follow on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks and also on the YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button. Every time Teddy and I go live on that betting show, you'll get the notification to pop in and view the programming. How about this? Last night, T-Wolves, nice winner out there in Los Angeles. Now they're going to be on the road in the back-to-back situation, as we like to say on this show, Teddy, heading into elevation. Lines opened up 8.5, had 10 early this morning. Teddy, 10.5 now showing up here. Maybe a little bit of road-weary T-Wolves, rested and ready Utah Jazz here.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 factors that I believe are in play for this line move. One, obviously Minnesota playing last night, winning last night, 3rd consecutive victory, now going into altitude. It is not a bet on spot for the T-Wolves. And there's a lot of concerns about Derrick Rose for tonight's ball game. Rose, if you remember, way back when, that was real early in the season when he hung out and scored 50 on the Jazz in the first meeting between these 2 teams. But he hurt his ankle in the first half, didn't return after halftime last night. He missed 6 games early in the season with that same right ankle injury. He's very questionable tonight. And obviously the markets, based on the early money, do not think that Derrick Rose is going to play. A big loss for a T-Wolves squad that, you know, has benefited tremendously from Rose's playmaking ability so far this season.
Friday night, Teddy, it's the return of the MAC, not the Mid-American Conference, the Metro Atlantic Conference here out on the East Coast. Couple line movers overnight. Not a lot to pick and choose from tonight on the card. Looks like 6 total games. Some decent action going on. Ryder versus Iona heading over to New Rochelle. Quinnipiac versus Marist. If we take a look at the lines here, Ryder opened up -1, quickly bet to 2.5. Offshore Posts had Quinnipiac plus 3.5, now down to 2.5. So a little bit of movement in these, and we talk about these every once in a while, Teddy. Not the highlight games, not the Michigans, the Michigan States, the Dukes, but some of these lower level games, you can find an added advantage. You can certainly steal some points. Some of these lines already moving this morning at the time of filming, Teddy.
Yeah, and I don't handicap the MAC, the MAAC, not the MAC, the MAC, as much as I mean, I really used to get into this conference back in the day. The last 5 years or so, I haven't put as much time into it. You know, life changes and things happen. You got to focus. And this allows me to do shows like this without focusing on MAC basketball the way that I used to. All that being said, I had found this conference to be fairly profitable when you follow the teams closely, and certainly when it comes to streaking teams that are mispriced for whatever reason, and then the season starts and they continue to be mispriced. Boy, you can ride some streaks in this conference worth paying attention to perhaps tonight in both Ryder and Quinnipiac ball games.
Should be interesting to find out and watch. We'll set it up as it goes. Our daily profile, Teddy, Super Bowl 53 coming up next Sunday. We'll be doing the live betcast from Jaco Beach, Costa Rica, getting you ready to go. Last year I was in the same betcast. Was a lot of fun. We'll be doing it again. So something to keep an eye out for on Super Bowl Sunday. If you're not watching the telecast directly, pop on sportsbookreview.com through the YouTube page. We'll have a lot of fun and certainly enjoy that. Teddy, taking a look at the lines. If we look at some of these strip casinos down there in Las Vegas or even off the strip with stations at -2.5, -120, Caesars -2.5, -115. Those numbers creeping towards threes. And as I look at some of the betting splits out here, seems to me still, Teddy, same diagnosis we've had so far. It's all Patriots money early.
It has to be all Patriots money early because everybody that wants to bet the Rams is waiting. This is an awkward situation for the sports books. All right. All the big bets they're taking so far, they're all on New England. They know the public's going to be on New England, and they know that at 3, the wise guys will be on the dog. But as soon as they move to 3, one book moves to 3, bang, they're getting pounded. They got to move back down to 2.5 because the wise guys are dealing. So when the market broadly moves to 3, I think it'll stay. For the time being, as one book goes in, Bovada's at 3 now. Bovada. I'll refrain. I'll refrain from talking about what Bovada does to winning bettors. But they don't take wise guy action. We'll just leave it that way. So they can hang a 3. Coast here in Vegas now has a 3. They're another book that is known for not taking sharp action. So those kind of books have been able to move to 3 because they're not going to take $10,000 and $20,000 bets on the dog as soon as it goes there. But I do expect this line to close 3 at most books, and it's clearly a situation where the public likes the favorite. The wise guys will be on the dog when they get the price they're looking for.
Something always to keep options on there, SBRodds.com, for all your latest line movements out there. Watch what you bet, Teddy. Friday night. Look, man, we still got to find some action out there for the people to play and give some angles toward those. Michigan's going to return to Big Ten play fresh off a buzzer-beating victory versus Minnesota. Everything looked nice, tidy, and cozy in that game versus Minnesota. Comes all the way down to the wire, tie game, winner at the buzzer. Now we move on to play the Indiana Hoosiers at Indiana in Assembly Hall. Michigan comes in 7-1 straight up in Big Ten play. Teddy 5-3 against the number. Indiana 3-5 straight up in Big Ten play. 2-6 against the number. Friday night action. You know what's nice about this, Teddy? You get a nice little 3:30 card out there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, nice and early. So if you have to work till 5, you're screwed. You better make this bet during lunchtime. Look, I mean, the Wolverines have owned the Hoosiers of late. 5-0 straight up. 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings. It's an Indiana team that has only 1 point spread cover in their last 6 ball games, and that was a 3-point loss at Maryland. I think they were +4 in that ball game, or +5. They have 1 win during this 6-game span at home against a pretty bad Illinois team that's at the bottom of the Big Ten. And you have a Michigan team that's coming off, they were tested and found a way to escape with a victory earlier in the week. Now, with travel, with short rest, I understand all the reasons that you might want to take this home dog. Michigan's the better of these two teams. and it's not a game that I love by any stretch of the imagination, but I do expect the Wolverines to take care of business. Unfortunately, so does everybody else. Michigan is clearly a popular public choice tonight.
Kawhi coming back to the state of Texas, Teddy, this time versus the Rockets. And how's James Harden going to follow up that garden party of 61? Will he be tired? Looks like we saw Chris Paul maybe coming back for tonight, but that has since been ruled out since taping today. So Chris Paul will not be playing tonight. Raptors come in a -3 favorite. Opened up offshore, Teddy, right around that 1.5 number. Maybe seeing if Chris Paul might come back, might not come back. That line has obviously moved and in the direction of maybe even possibly going higher as well. It'll be interesting to see where that closes. Toronto 15-10 straight up on the road this year. 11-13-1. Rockets 17-7 straight up at home. They are coming in here as dogs. So if you're saying, hey, I'm just going to look at the Rockets as a season number, 17-7 looks pretty good just to win. Keep in mind they are 14-9-1, so they are cashing to the spread as well. Rockets, Raptors down in Houston tonight, Teddy. Will the experiment continue with James Harden doing it all, and will it work for a victory tonight?
Well, when you're going up against Kawhi Leonard, you can't expect these type of numbers, and I'm confident that we're going to see Nick Nurse ensure that Kawhi Leonard is guarding James Harden for extended stretches this evening. I mean, Harden, 3 50-point games over his last 5. He's averaging 52.2 points a game over the last 5 contests. He just became the first player since Shaq in March of 2000 to post 60 points and 15 rebounds in the same game. But as you mentioned, the money coming for Toronto, Chris Paul, there were thoughts that he might be able to suit up tonight. He will not go this evening. Obviously, Clint Capella isn't there for Houston right now, although, Fareed, I'm telling you, Fareed's going to make a difference for that team. But they're facing a Raptors team that's coming in off a loss at Indiana. Kawhi was out. Anunoby was out. Both those guys expected to play tonight. They've been pretty darn good at bouncing back off a loss this season. And even in that game at Indiana, without Leonard, without Anunoby, they still almost rally back from 15 points down in the fourth. It's a deep team. That's a problem for Houston because the Rockets are anything but a deep team at this stage of the campaign.
Yeah, all short numbers also opened up, Teddy. 228.5, showing 229s there on the total. We wanted to save at least, Teddy, at least 10 seconds here to talk about our next game coming up on Sunday. The AFC NFC Pro Bowl in the NFL. Breaking it down, good luck. My always question is how many players will actually get tackled to the ground in this game as opposed to the final score. And if we're looking at any indicators, offshore, Vegas, wherever you want, most of these lines are set at a pick 'em over under about 55.5, and for good reason, Teddy. Or should I say, Teddy, give us a reason to bet the AFC NFC Pro Bowl.
So, rest in peace, my good friend Dave Malinsky used to handicap this game every year, and he would go in and he would look for QB wide receiver combinations that were going to be on the field together, and that was a bet-on situation. Oh, when you could find a QB that would have his receivers that he was throwing to, particularly in the second half. If you want to sit down and try to do that research on the Pro Bowl, you may find an edge. I have not done that. I would rather concern myself with tomorrow's enormous college basketball card and with NBA tonight and with NBA tomorrow. That's where my focus is. There are handicapping edges potentially for the Pro Bowl. I just don't have any for you. You got to find them by yourself.
My goodness, yep, and good luck if you're live betting this game as well on your 5 edges. Good luck to you. We're all gamblers at heart, so if that's what you spend your Sunday doing, go ahead and get at it. Off the mic, Teddy, some interesting stuff comes up here. Never a dull day, it seems, in the atmosphere with people challenging people on ESPN or CBS or NBC. We're gamblers at heart, Teddy. Lines have been set at Bovada here. Derek Carr, -110. Stephen A. Smith, -130 split here if they lined up in the octagon. Seems to me that these odds are a little bit short, Teddy. Give me Derek Carr for the cover here.
Yeah, that's a bad number. And, of course, it's not an MMA match that's ever going to happen. But Carr's got to be, a 10-1 favorite?
At least.
The guy that works out for the NFL team who's bigger and stronger than his opponent in an octagon situation. No. Stephen A. Smith, you're a big dog in this one. But the chance of them ever – look, I'm with you. I'd love to see someone punch Stephen A. Smith right in the face, or Skip Bayless. Not really, but
nice
it'd be
little
amusing.
Charity action, little charity fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would be amusing. But yeah, it would be. I'd watch. I might even pay-per-view for that.
Yeah. Throw it a little bit to charity. By the way, Teddy, if you can't beat a really good football team off the field, you might as well do something to the mascot off the field at the Pro Bowls. We saw yesterday. It looks like a little bit of cat and mouse play type of game. Jamal Adams, the safety for the New York Jets, playfully, it looked like, tackling the New England Patriots mascot, but sending him to the hospital, Teddy. What gives here? A little bit of, gamesmanship, saying we'll show you next year by taking out your mascot. Looked like it was all fun and games until we send people to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. It's all fun and games till somebody loses an eye. Look, Jamal Adams is not an enormous human being in the way that offensive linemen or defensive linemen are. He's 6 foot. He's 215 pounds. That being said, he is an NFL monster. And if you saw, I had to watch the replay of this. If you saw the tackle, he just kind of lands on him and flops. You can't do that with a quarterback. You got to roll off. Adams didn't roll off here. And of course, you're the mascot. Oh, my back. Oh, my neck. You better believe I'm going to the hospital. The guy's not going to have to dress up in that stupid outfit ever again because he's going to win a lawsuit against somebody and cash in big time. Welcome to how we do things in America.
Exactly. So you're going to look at next year, Roger Goodell is going to have to now police the sidelines just to see if players are going to hit mascots, and that might end up in a game or two suspension, 15-yard personal foul, or worse, a UPS envelope on Tuesday morning.